criticizing that sister maybe behind her back. And the same with the brothers. You make an accusation, a criticism. Believe me, Allah will test you with your words. Allah will test you. The very same thing that you criticize them for, Allah will test you. Allah will test you to see if you are true to what you say. This is the fact. And sometimes, alhamdulillah, you'll prove worthy. The things you talked about, you were sincere about it, and you were true to it. So alhamdulillah, you'll pass the test. But how many people have I seen fall by the wayside? How many tongues waggling and criticizing, and so busy looking at the faults of their brothers and sisters, but they didn't look at themselves. They were so busy criticizing, they didn't even look at themselves to see what is in their own hearts, to see their own deficiencies, their own inadequacies. They didn't even know their own strengths and weaknesses. So quick to blame, so slow to take blame. And then when Allah tried them with their words, they proved wanting. And they fell into the same fitna that they used to criticize other people for. How many times have I seen that? How many times an evil word against your brother reaps consequences for years? And I will tell you, I'm telling you something from my own life. Not to expose to you my sins and inadequacies, but to warn you of something I know personally. Of a word can have a devastating effect. A devastating effect. Alhamdulillah, when I first became Muslim, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala blessed it to make it very easy for me to pray in the night time, to stand for tahajjud. And one day I was invited to go on a walk, a sponsored walk. We walked from Bradford to London. It's 250 miles. In fact, the same distance from Mecca to Medina. This walk was taking us 2 weeks, and on the way, every night we stopped in a mosque and we were raising awareness about a charity organization. And this, by the way, brothers and sisters, I want to warn you about. It was an action, and inshallah, I hope a good action pleasing to Allah. But sometimes, and this is very dangerous, you can become proud of your actions. You can feel proud of yourself. You think you are so good. You think you are so great. Look what I am doing. Look how much I am doing. And look how little you are doing. And so one night we stayed in the mosque. And in the mosque, there were some brothers who were on tabligh. They were on tabligh, from tabligh jama'ah. And I, anyway, had some issues with them from before. However, we had to get up early in the morning after Fajr to start our work. And the brothers from tabligh, what did they do? Instead of getting up and getting ready and doing whatever, they were sleeping. And I said a word. I said a word, an unjust word about them. I said, all these people do is they sleep. Wallahi, what an unjust word to say about them. I could have said a just word. I could have made a just criticism, but this was not a just criticism. You know, brothers and sisters, from that time, for years and years and years, I found it almost impossible to get up for tahajjud. I really believe from that day, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala put a fitna on me because of the evil of an unjust word that I said. This is the harvest of the tongue. A foolish word, an unjust word spoken about your Muslim brother and sister. This is the harvest of the tongues. And if this is the harvest of the tongues in this life, how will it be on the day when we stand in front of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? How will it be on the day of accounting? How will it be on the day of reckoning? When we will have to pay for every single thing that we have done. every abuse that we have suffered or caused to suffer our Muslim brothers and sisters, we will have to pay them. We will have to pay them. And we won't be paying them with money because we won't have any money. It'll be too late to apologize. It'll be too late to make amends. No. We will have to pay with our deeds. Our good deeds will be taken away and given to those people that we abused, given to those people that we backbit, given to those people that we slandered, given to those people against whom we did injustice. And if we don't have any good deeds left, we will have to take their sins. And then, it's only after that, by the way, the deeds will be weighed. First is the accounting. Words, brothers and sisters, are dangerous. Be careful what you say. Be careful what you say. Be careful what you say. Talk is cheap. If you are going to speak, if you have to speak, let good come out of your mouth. Let good come out of your mouth. If you haven't got something good to say, be quiet. What Allah wants from us are actions. What Allah wants from us is action. And action here means actions of worship. Actions of worship. This is what Allah wants from us. Ibadah. Amal. And the amal here means worship. Actions of worship to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This is what Allah wants from us. But these actions have some very, very important prerequisites. In order for our actions to be accepted to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, we need some very important conditions to precede it. Number one is true and complete iman. This is not an action that must be mixed with shirk. It is not an action that must be mixed with kufr. The second thing is we need sincerity. Oh brothers and sisters, we need sincerity. We need ikhlas. Our actions are of no good if they are insincere. Mountains of actions, mountains of deeds of worship will be of no benefit if they have not been done sincerely for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And we remind myself and yourself, brothers and sisters, of that hadith. We all know it, but we need to hear it. Even if we heard it every day, it wouldn't be enough for us. If we woke up and this is the first thing we read of our day, alhamdulillah, it would be good for us. And this is about the first three people to stand in front of Allah on the Day of Judgment. The first three people to be taken to account by Allah on the Day of Judgment. The first one is a man who used to give charity, or the first one is the man who used to fight jihad. Jihad. He used to fight in the path of Allah. Jihad. And we know that is the most excellent of the deeds. And there is nothing that compared to it. If you sat in the mosque and you prayed, and you fasted, and you gave charity non-stop, it wouldn't be the equivalent, or that might be the equivalent of fighting jihad. But who could pray and fast and give charity non-stop and be in the mosque while a person is fighting jihad? It's not possible. You couldn't do it. Meaning there is no deed comparable to it. So there is a man who went to fight jihad. And when he stood in front of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, Allah asked him, Allah questioned him, what did you do with the bounties and the favors that I bestowed upon you? And this man said, oh Allah, I fought jihad in your path until I was slain a martyr. And Allah will say to him, you lied. You lied. You fought jihad so the people will call you brave and the people will call you a fighter. and they called you that. And Allah will order him to be dragged on his face into the hellfire. And then another man will come. This man used to give charity. He used to spend in the path of Allah. And Allah will question him, what did you do with the favors and the bounties that I gave to you? He will say, oh Allah, I spent charity in every place and every cause that I could for your sake. And Allah will say to him, you lied. You spent charity so that the people will call you generous and charitable, and they called you that. And Allah will order him to be dragged on his face into the hellfire. And then another man will come. A man who learned to recite the Quran, and he learned religious knowledge. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will ask him, what did you do with the favors that I bestowed upon you? And he will say, oh Allah, I learnt your book and recited it. And I learned religious knowledge and taught it for your pleasure. And Allah will say to him, you lied. You learnt Quran so the people will call you a reciter. And you learned religious knowledge so the people will call you a scholar. And they called you that. And he will be ordered to be dragged on his face into the hellfire. These are the first three people who will be brought and accounted by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And they are the best of the deeds. Jihad, giving charity, learning the Quran and memorizing it, and religious knowledge and being a scholar. Yet, my brothers and sisters, they did not do it for the pleasure of Allah. They were not sincere in their actions. They did their actions to show off. They did their actions to get praise. They did their actions to get admiration from others. They sought the pleasure not of Allah, but of other people. So whoever does that on the Day of Judgment, Allah will say, go and seek your reward from those people for whom you did those actions for. If you want a reward, go and get your reward from them. So this is the first matter, brothers and sisters. And I think if we spent time and we spent our energy and we focused our attention on making our deeds sincere, we wouldn't have time and energy to be looking at the faults of our brothers and sisters. Blessed is the one who is so preoccupied with his or her own faults that that person doesn't have time to see the faults in others.